If you or your partner are having a hard time getting pregnant or just tired and stressed, hormones may be the cause. With a delicate interplay, hormones drive much of our general and metabolic health. Imbalances can lead to infertility, but also weight gain. Eat the wrong thing, train too much or too little, and you will develop imbalances in your hormones. Additionally, the microbiome can be the cause of and impacted by these compounds. Joining us today is Sarah Clarke at Maximal Being Fitness, Nutrition, and Gut Health, a natural fertility coach and functional medicine practitioner here to set your life into balance. But listen on, Maximal Beings. Do us a favor, Maximal Beings, and leave us a comment or review. Hit the subscribe button and let your friends and family know so that we can get the word out. Listen, we've all been there. You go to the doctor and they tell you to lose weight. How? Move more, eat less. So you see a nutritionist and a trainer and they tell you to eat X, Y, and Z, leaving you having one salad a day, starving and unsatisfied. But fear not, because Maximal Being is here. By harnessing the power of science, Doc Mock, a GI doctor and functional medicine practitioner, and RN Graham, an ICU nurse and ex-physique competitor, will teach you not only the how to reach your fitness, nutrition, and gut health goals, but also the why. Head on over to maximalbeing.com/shop and sign up for one of Maximal Being's fitness, nutrition, or gut health plans today. In addition to your plan, which has over a $2,000 value for only $100, you will receive 90 days of accountability from one of our coaches. Save 10% on prescribed supplements, maximize your nutrition, an instructional ebook, a cookbook, and much, much more. Bundle 2 or more plans and save, or sign up for a complete health overhaul and save much, much more. Act now and maximize your pathway to wellness at maximalbeing.com/shop.
Welcome to Maximal Being, a GI doc and ICU nurse that break down the science so you can exceed your gut health, nutrition, and fitness goals. So, let's smash the bro science and optimizing your health with your hosts, Doc Mock and RN Graham.
What's going on, Maximal Beings? Doc Mock here with Maximal Being Fitness, Nutrition, and Gut Health. Many of you are stressed, not sleeping, eating Cheetos all day, every day, and you can't get back into the gym. And as a result, maybe you're trying to improve your hormone state, or you're trying to get pregnant in the midst of this pandemic that we're going through. Well, fret not, because Sarah Clarke is here to assist you and educate you on the impact of your hormones, as well as all of the lifestyle choices that you make and how to improve them on your fertility. As always, I'm Doc Mock. I am a therapeutic endoscopist practicing here in beautiful Cleveland, Ohio. That's a GI doctor that specializes in cancer, and I'm also a functional medicine practitioner and do nutrition. And joining me, as always, is RN Graham.
Hello out there, Maximal Beings. Another great podcast here with my good friend, Doc Mock. I am RN Graham. I am an ICU nurse down here in South Florida. I work predominantly on the COVID unit and, like I said, in the ICU. And I am also an ex-fitness competitor. Excuse my tongue today. But I am really looking forward to our podcast today with Sarah Clarke. It seems like we have a very interesting topic, and I can't wait to delve in.
So for those of you that have not yet met Ms. Clarke, she is the founder as well as the lead coach in Fertility.com, or Fabulous Fertile, supercharging your fertility naturally. She's also the lead host for a wonderful podcast entitled Get Pregnant Naturally, which I honestly have just been binging my way through. She has a ton of amazing content on her website for those of you that want to get more educated on lifestyle and the impact on hormones, as well as your fertility. And so without further ado, Ms. Clarke.
Awesome. Excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's really our pleasure. We like to always start talking to our guests about their origin story, and you certainly are a superhero. So I can't wait to hear, your story, how you got into fertility medicine.
Yeah, so really have my own journey with infertility. I remember my early 20s having a regular cycle, so a couple cycles per year, which at that time I thought was a good idea, but obviously not, a sign of something that was off. So I had irregular cycles. I had a weird fungal rash on my chest. I had yeast infections, and then I started getting acne. So my teens, I had great skin. All of a sudden, in my early 20s, had acne. So the first line of defense, went to see my doctor and was placed on birth control, falsely regulated my cycle, and some of the other acne didn't really go away, but the yeast infections went away. And then I had this grand plan of getting married at 25, having my kids at 28. So I got married at 25 and wanted to have my kids at 28. So I came off the pill shortly before 28. And then was told I had premature ovarian insufficiency, or failure as it used to be called, and basically which is the loss of function of the ovaries before the age of 40, and told the only way I'd ever have children is by using donor eggs. So I remember the OBGYN giving me this news, reaching up on her shelf, grabbing the IVF brochure and telling me, off you go to donor eggs. And at that point, I didn't think of the other symptoms that were going on in my body. I didn't think to get a second opinion. I went straight to the fertility clinic, got on a list for donor eggs, and was lucky enough on the first fresh transfer to have our daughter. And she just turned 19. So this is back in the day when you said donor eggs and people are like, I don't even know what that is. And now you've got the embryo adoption and embryo donation. So all the IVF procedures going on, there's these little embryos there. And we had on my podcast, I had a woman, she actually adopted 2 embryos and had 2 children, and the natural siblings to those children are 13 years old, and her little daughters are 1 and 3. So science can do some pretty cool things. And so then after, so we had 2 embryos left over after we had our daughter, wanted the kids close together. Went back in. I was super stressed because I had this timeline of having them close together. Those 2 didn't work. I went on a separate list for a separate donor. And then we're lucky enough on the first fresh transfer to have our son. So he's 16. So the kids are 3 years apart. And then really after I had my daughter, I remember in 1 year I had 9 colds. Every cold went to a sinus infection. I thought it was a great idea to take antibiotics for all the colds, which was not a great idea. It was, disturbing the gut health and my microbiome. I had chronic sinusitis, chronic bladder infections, was peeing blood, became allergic to all the antibiotics. I had chronic yeast infections. I had toenail infections, dandruff, seasonal allergies, all these things. I was still functioning. I was still in corporate HR at the time, but under chronic stress. And then decided I was going to bring life coaching into the corporate environment. Took a life coaching course, had my own personal wake-up call, discovered that I really loved health and wellness, took a health coaching course. And that's when I discovered I had these food sensitivities. So for me, it was gluten, dairy, later corn, took those out of my diet. Lo and behold, the sinus infection started to go away. The bladder infection started to go away. The yeast infection started to lessen. Then I took out corn. Then I did some stool testing, found out I had streptococcus and H. pylori and fungal infections. And then the whole underlying cause of issues with all sorts of things actually was chronic stress. And I actually would have said I wasn't stressed out. So that was interesting, but I know that I was, but I didn't discover any of this until I was 40. So fully in menopause. And what I know though, after helping lots of couples that are going through, especially with this diagnosis too, with a POI or a POF diagnosis, premature ovarian insufficiency or failure, and also with low AMH, diminished ovarian reserve, really being able to help couples when they've been told, sorry, it's donor eggs for you. There's really lots of things that the functional approach can help us really get to the bottom of why it's not working, and really looking at those missed healing opportunities.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Clarke, and gratitude for your full disclosure, and I really appreciate your story and sharing with our audience. It certainly is amazing, and I think you outline a lot of things which we've talked about as well, is that Westernized medicine has all of these amazing advances, right, in pharmacology and technologies, but it's really good in a crisis, right? You come in with an acute heart attack, you need a cardiac catheterization. But for everybody else that has all of these other underlying health issues, rarely will we dive into nutrition. And it's because as healthcare providers, our education is just lacking, and it's not necessarily anybody's fault, but the education system itself. Before we dive into, the weeds on hormones, let's just take a step back. And if you could define for our audience when somebody should seek help for fertility and what infertility actually is.
Yeah, so basically, yeah, one in six couples will struggle from infertility in Canada, 1 in 8 couples in the U.S. And really, it's if you've been trying for more than 1 year, then they'll start doing tests if you're under 35, and if you're over 35, it's 6 months. I was just interviewing actually someone the other day for my podcast from Modern Fertility, and she's actually changing this conversation because it's like, how can we have to wait?
Exactly.
Okay, wait a minute. We're listening to our body. We know our body best. What's going on? Why do we need to wait for a year until they're going to actually do these tests? So from Modern Fertility, she has a very inexpensive test that's actually rolling out through Walmart, which is crazy. Not crazy. It's good. And so she could, because when she was first going through this, she had PCOS, and she knew something was wrong, and she wasn't diagnosed with PCOS yet. And she had to wait the year, and then she had to, the tests were $1,500. So this test that she has is like $159. So it's interesting to have for women's health and hormones, kind of pushing the conversation forward, that, to be empowered. If we know our body best, what's going on, and how do we take action, faster rather than waiting. And yeah,
it's interesting that you bring up, the concept of women's health, because let's face it, that's a form of health that is so taboo and so left out in the dark. Even as, I have a young daughter, and we're constantly teaching her women's health, because they don't do it in school. They don't do it once you get out of school, and I wish there was so many more options, other than sex education. Let's go deeper. Let's accept the fact that, women's health is extremely important. And I think it's one of those things that are left out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it's like, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, it's just like, it's for us is to bring it forward and move the conversation forward. On Instagram now, people are sharing their bleeding. Before it'd be like, oh my goodness, your period. We don't talk about that. That's embarrassing. I know my daughter's generation, and like, she runs around, yeah, got my period, no big deal. I'd be like, oh my goodness, no one should know this. This is embarrassing. So it's like, so now it's the conversation is starting to change. I still do with birth control that, typically for me, when I had those issues going on with my cycle, the first recommendation is birth control, and it's still happening. And it even happened with my daughter, and she had some issues, and I'm like, well, we can look at this, she hears me going on about the nutrition and other things we can do. And she's like, no, I want to go in and see what the doctor says. And we went in, and literally she said, oh, my period's very heavy and crampy. And he's like, oh, well, why don't you go on the pill? And she looked over at me and went, okay, Mom. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the politics are in Canada right now regarding birth control and women's health, but my wife is a urogynecologist, and urogynecologists and the procedures that they do are reimbursed by about 50% that of male urology procedures here in the United States. So it just kind of creates a tapestry of where our society, disvalues women's health when it's greater than 50% of our population. So
yeah, it's crazy. It's similar in Canada.
Aaron, Graham, you want to ask about hormones and, setting the stage for?
Yes, definitely. Especially from the nutrition, from the fitness standpoint, male and female. So of course, there's a lot of abuse of hormones in the fitness industry. And of course, this has a huge effect on fertility and infertility. So, I just want to hear from, someone that's more of an expert than, of course, myself, the role that hormone replacement plays in infertility.
Yeah, I just did an episode all about bioidentical hormones. Like our thing is like that's a band-aid approach where let's look at the underlying issues of what's going on. Is there, is there a missed food sensitivity? Is there a gut infection? What are the environmental toxins? We're exposed to a whole bunch of endocrine disruptors from our environment. We're in the middle of a huge food experiment with the glyphosate that is put on our food, is sprayed on our food, and then also the mental emotional stress of dealing with infertility. So we look to minimize those stressors, and then if someone needs to have bioidentical hormones, we can then recommend those, but that's kind of not where we would start with. And then we're doing testing, looking at the Dutch test, so that's giving us clues, looking at your hormones using urine, kind of what pathways the hormones are going down, looking at your cortisol levels, and looking at your sex hormones, your melatonin. And I guess from a fitness standpoint, like we see many people, because we coach like a busy professional type A, and we see many people that have like with exercise, they've basically exercised so much they've lost their period. Mm-hmm. So like amenorrhea. So we will see that, and then also with premature ovarian insufficiency or failure, typically we're seeing with that diagnosis is there's a myriad of different things going on, but a lot of it can be trauma that's going on, like mental, emotional, and then those stressors of food sensitivities. We see autoimmune issues. So we're looking underneath why are the hormones out of balance, and how do we then address these stressors to then bring it back to balance.
So another important question that I have for you is one of the things that I love that you guys do is the couples therapy. And for men facing infertility is, that's like something that men will not talk about. Because for the most part, when you think of, oh, we can't have a baby, the first thought is, oh, there must be something wrong with the woman. Most men aren't going to face the fact that, you know what, maybe the problem is you. So can you talk about how you guys kind of bring the couples coaching into play, and how do you help educate men in the whole structure of infertility?
Yeah. So in the beginning, when we were coaching, and we're typically dealing with female factor infertility, although we do support couples that have male factor, but typically it's mostly female factor infertility that come to us. And in the beginning, we were just coaching women, they'd be making all these changes and, doing a lot of research and doing all the changes. And we just felt the missing link. You're preparing your body for a baby together. It's you and your partner, and you can be making all these changes, diet and lifestyle. Then he's over there, he wants to support you, but he may not know what he can do. And so bringing both partners together just has everyone for that, that healthy couple, healthy pregnancy, healthy baby. Everyone's on the same page. And typically, I ask the question all the time, what as far as research, because we see a lot of type A people that we're coaching, they put their research hat on and they've gone down the rabbit hole of Dr. Google and literally lost, hours of their life doing that, where we're like, how do we switch that over to self-care instead of, research? Because, how do you feel after all that research? And when I asked the male partner, are you researching? Like 99% of the time, he's like, I'm not doing any research. And not to say that he's not interested. He may be learning, through osmosis, through his partner. So we just find the partners really don't know what they can do to optimize their health. So we include a blood chemistry review, not to diagnose, but to educate, what are the healing opportunities? And we're looking at the blood chemistry to see that have been missed. And we're looking at the blood chem through functional reference ranges are just tighter, and they're for healthy people. So it flags it earlier before it goes to disease. So we're looking at his blood chem, then seeing, what's been missed on his side. And there's even when he puts his hand up and says, my sperm, my semen analysis is totally fine, there are always things he can do to optimize his preconception health. And many times, this is most people that we work with have been trying for at least 2 years. They've had at least one failed IVF or more, like multiple. And so this can really bring a relationship together or tear it apart. And he may feel he has to be strong for her. he may feel that, if he breaks down about this, that, what's going to happen, they're both going to be, what's going to, he has to be strong. And so he can't share his feelings. He may not even have, in some of these coaching sessions, that he may not even have told her some of the things that he's bringing up. So it just opens up a conversation where both people are able to talk about their emotions and their feelings on this. And then it brings them closer together, because sometimes she's thinking maybe he's not as affected by this as I am. She may be obsessing about it. Typically women are going to over research, this is generalizing, start an Instagram profile, maybe an anonymous profile, and post about things, join a Facebook group, go into chat groups. Typically generalizing, guys do not do that, but it doesn't mean they're not equally as impacted.
True.
And that partner stress can also worsen the underlying condition, right? And further precipitate infertility. And just backtracking in my nerdy science brain, for the listeners out there, the Dutch test is a commercially available hormone test that uses saliva and or urine. They're one of our partners as well. I love the Dutch test. We do it a lot for weight loss strategies and aromatization. And then reference ranges, you absolutely hit the nail on the head that in westernized medicine, we have, ranges that flag if your liver function testing is high, but it may be abnormal without hitting that flag. And as doctors that are reviewing hundreds of these a day, you may miss opportunity to improve somebody's wellness. Mm-hmm. Just stepping back with the hormones again. So what are the main hormone players when you're talking to somebody about fertility that you are evaluating with the Dutch test or your other lab values?
Yeah, like for the hormone, again, we're not like focusing on the hormones per se. Like even if they come in and they give us a diagnosis of low AMH or it's unexplained infertility, and their FSH is high, their AMH is at a 0.01, which is like, that's, you could say that their ovarian reserve is basically done. Like basically people get in the fertility side of things, get very stuck on the diagnosis and follow these generalized recommendations. And so with the hormone piece, we're looking at the hormones, and it's telling, all of this tells a story. So we're looking at your health history, and we're bringing in these functional tests. And so we're looking at cortisol levels, and we regularly see people's cortisol pattern, especially if they've been doing this for a long time, it could be like flatlined, so completely burnt out. Their cortisol level, there could be like glucose issues, so blood sugar imbalances. We see that a lot, where and their blood sugar is even like, so back up. So we may see like sleep issues, which then is going to then cause your blood sugar to be imbalanced. And then that's messing with your sex hormones there. So those are kind of some themes that we see. And then with the hormones, they may be going down some of the wrong pathways. So like some DNA damage, as far as the estrogen. So to make sure it's going down the right pathways. Maybe for the testosterone, it's on, and I'm not an expert in the Dutch test. This is part of my team. So they're actually going to be reviewing the Dutch test, the functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner on my team. But really in general, we're looking at the hormones, what's out of balance. And then we're typically reviewing that with the GI map test. So that's looking at this, that's the stool test, looking at the DNA of your stool and kind of, from a cortisol standpoint, sometimes we'll see that the cortisol is slightly elevated at night, which could mean there's gut bugs in there. So, then we'll see if they have like a parasite or a bacterial infection. So it all kind of ties in together, and we're not focusing on like one hormone per se. It's like the whole picture.
So talking about the gut, which is my wheelhouse, love talking about the gut. In preparation, we all kind of reviewed a little bit of the medical literature regarding the tie between the gut and both stress levels as well as hormones and fertility. And so, what do you think are the main factors in terms of diet that impact the gut? What are your low-hanging fruit for nutritional interventions to fix the gut, to fix fertility?
Yeah. So our whole thing is, how do we reduce inflammation in the body? And one of the big things is diet. Most people that come to me are saying they're eating a clean diet, they're eating a healthy diet. As we dig into, I would say 100% of people come back with some sort of food sensitivity. just like myself. So we have both partners do the elimination diet. It's the gold standard to figure out if you have a food sensitivity. We'll tweak that further with food sensitivity testing for the female partner. Typically right now we're looking at the Zoomer test. It's the best one available right now. For like, we don't have any affiliation with any of the testing companies or the lab companies. We just find the best one available. It's available in most of the US except for the New Jersey and New York. But if you can go to Pennsylvania, you can go to Connecticut close by and get it done there. And that one, it looks at, and there's a lot of false negatives in the conventional celiac testing. So there's only testing for 4 proteins in wheat, where there's some say over 60 or 70. The Zoomer test will look for 26. So at least we'll then find some basically it's zooming in on there's a wheat Zoomer, there's a soy Zoomer, a corn Zoomer, dairy Zoomer, and they also include in IgG. So looking at the delayed food reaction. So the food is crucial. What you place on your fork every day does matter. If you're eating something that is causing inflammation in your body, and sort of back up, we see many people that come to us that have been on long-term hormonal birth control. And they typically didn't go on for prevention. They went on for either irregular cycles or cramping or heavy cycles. And then that will predispose you to food sensitivities, gut infections, and mineral imbalance. So we see that with the launch, and then the theme of non-celiac gluten sensitivity is the theme we see with the diet, with people with these complex diagnoses, and even like unexplained, or the premature ovarian insufficiency, the low anti-Müllerian hormone, the diminished ovarian reserve, that non-celiac gluten sensitivity, where when they do the wheat Zoomer, like gluten is in the red zone off the chart. We see that very, very regularly. And most people be like, oh, okay, they didn't even know, or they might be kind of partially gluten-free, and, maybe their partner's still eating it, and that can still, we're recommending the whole household go gluten-free if someone's that sensitive. So diet is key. And that can then, with the gut piece, it's either, you could have a leaky gut or intestinal permeability. And then all these, your favorite food, we've had that before, and I had that too, where your favorite foods, unfortunately, your body starts mounting an immune response to them, and then you're intolerant to all your favorite foods. And then, how do you heal the gut? And, you can then eventually bring back in that avocado or lettuce or whatever it is, and that. So,
Yeah, we've definitely talked about leaky gut before, and essentially you have this carpet on your entire small bowel. You eat Cheetos or you have stressors over the period of your life, and it pokes little holes inside of this barrier, which has such a difficult job at getting, your nutrients through, your vegetables through into your bloodstream, but also keeping the bacteria away from the bloodstream, which can cause that low level of inflammation. And so irritating it over time, poking those holes in it, will break down the barrier. That Cheeto slips through. Our ancestors didn't eat Cheetos, so your body doesn't know what to do with the Cheeto. It floats around in this complex, elevates your white blood cells, and then it goes into your brain, makes your brain foggy, gets to your joints, makes your joint ache. What I found in my research was overall high levels of streptococcal species is associated with fertility issues in terms of the gut microbiome, and high levels of bacillus species as well as mycotoxins too, which is kind of a not really talked about, hard to test for, subset of the microbiome. And overall a lack of lactobacillus in the case of men, and bifidobacterium more so in the case of women. And so in animal studies, at least, they've replaced those bacteria, which have shifted away from the streptococcal bacillus species, and improved fertility in subsets of mostly animals. Unfortunately, there's a kind of a lack of human data on that subject. We use the Cyrex lab test, which is available at home in a saliva format. I really like that because it tests IgA, which is the lining of your gut, as well as that delayed IgG and IgE, your allergy response. If you're stuck at home and cannot make it to the grocery store, delivery may be the best way to stay clean and healthy. Instacart is the national leader in the direct-to-home delivery service. With numerous major chains and food from smaller stores, you can get those local veggies sent directly to your doorstep. Head on over to maximalbeing.com/Instacart and maximize your nutrition today. What's going on, Maximal Beings? It's Doc Mock here. Many of you are returning to the gym now, but some are not going back. Regardless of what you plan, Rogue has got the right gear to fit your needs. I personally own a barbell set and love it. The Black Ops shorts are sweat resistant and flexible for getting deep in your squats. Head on over to maximalbeing.com/rogue for our referral link. Order 3 items and they ship for free. And as usual, it's Doc Mock, and I'm here to maximize your pathway to wellness. I think, RN Graham, you had a question about kind of what's that sweet spot for fitness, right? Too much fitness, bad for fertility. Too little, and you're gaining weight, you get insulin resistance.
So that's something I definitely want to delve into because, everybody's, fit life, fitness. But what a lot of people don't realize is you can overdo it. And you spoke about it with amenorrhea. There's a certain weight that you need to be if you are planning to carry a baby. And if you're not in that weight range, your body says, well, you're not ready to carry that baby. So it's not going to allow you to do that. But at the same time, unhealthy eating does lead to the insulin spikes. And, from research, we know that also plays a part. So can you tell us what is the balance? Where should, a woman be when she's planning to conceive a baby? How does she balance that fitness versus the other end?
Yeah, and it is in the middle, right? So you don't want to be over exercising, nor do you want to be sitting on the couch with your feet up. So it is movement is important. And we really like to see, well, how do you feel? Do you, after the run, are you exhausted and you're dragging your butt for the next 2 days? How are you feeling after we don't want you to do vigorous exercise. How are you feeling after exercise? And a lot of times people kind of get stuck in this, a lot of cardio. So we include an exercise coach as part of our program to really being able to customize it for that's right for the person. Some people, can just do more exercise and feel fine, but it is that really tuning into your body. We prefer you to do like a hatha type of yoga, so slower yoga, yin yoga, restorative yoga. These, if you are kind of used to that vigorous exercise, you might be like, are you kidding me? I got to hold this pose for all this time. It's too slow. I want to leave the room. It's horrible. That's the whole point, is to sit with the emotions, to work through. A lot of times when you're holding some of these poses, you can actually work emotions out of the body, work grief and trauma and have it move out of the body. So we prefer more so those kind of yoga and those slower exercises. Also weightlifting, 2 to 3 times a week is weightlifting. You can do it. Brisk walking is good. It really though is individual, and see how you feel. And if you're running right now and doing and we're saying, let's slow down and you can't, that's something else too, where you're like, well, wait a minute, how come I can't give that up? Is that your only way that you relieve stress? And how is that impacting your cortisol level? Is that, are you in burnout mode and you just keep going and you don't even listen anymore and you're just,
So you did bring up the yoga, and that's something that I absolutely love that you brought up. And I know that you guys do offer yoga training as well. Can you go into that? Because you did speak about the stress relief of it, but even some of the poses as well can really help fertility.
Yeah, like legs up the wall before you go to bed, putting 20 minutes with the legs up the wall can help that the blood flow going into the uterus. You don't want to do that during your period, but and other poses like that heart opener pose where you can put a pillow under your back and then open your legs up into that butterfly pose, and that heart opener to that's helping with grief, and really that can be really helpful. we have like a 6-week yoga program as part of the program, and they have their cycles. There's poses before the cycle, after the cycle. There's ones you can just do in bed, but a lot of it is very that, hatha, restorative, yin, slower. You're not doing flows, vinyasas. You're not doing hot yoga, Bikram or Bikram yoga. That's too much. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
After exercising, the natural next step is recovery, right? And so we don't want to overtrain so that we get overtraining syndrome and we never fully recover. That's a high stress cortisol state. But a big part of that recovery is sleep. And, in my clinical practice and in our consulting practice, nobody in America is sleeping or sleeping well. So what are the low-hanging fruit, and how do you start that conversation improving somebody's sleep?
Yeah, so really this is something we work on with our couples for months. And a lot of times people either have insomnia for years, they may be waking up, between 1 to 3, which is the liver time kind of in Chinese medicine. So what's going on there? They may be waking up all night long because they're going to the bathroom. They may be waking up feeling exhausted. So first of all, we will track the sleep. So the Sleep Cycle app is a good one to look at, Sleep Cycle. We look to see, are you snoring? If you're snoring, there's Snore Lab. You can go to that app and track to see if you or your partner are snoring. Snoring can then impact the cardiovascular health and all sorts of systems in the body. That's a sign that something's off. As long as you don't have any sinus issues, you can do mouth tape. So mouth taping can then just be kind of cool it seems kind of barbaric because you put this thing over your partner. Quiet. But yeah, it can really help to then train you to breathe, not with your mouth when you're sleeping, but through your nose. The blue light blocking glasses, so blocking the blue and green light all at nighttime. So I should have them on right now, but I don't. But basically at sunset, you should be putting on your blue light blocking glasses because the blue and green light from your screen, your tablet, your TV is impacting your melatonin, which then impacts your female fertility as well as male. So, and health in general. So you want to make sure that your melatonin levels aren't. So basically we see people supplement with melatonin where it's like, how do we do that? Like the natural way to actually put the glasses on, or you can use, they have on your screens, you can use apps like Flux, FLUX, and put that on your screen to minimize that light. Castor oil packs are really good too to help for sleeping, the oxytocin and to relaxation. We recommend those, which are great to use in the first half of the cycle. For this general like sleep hygiene, you want to make sure, and this is for people, I speak to people all the time, going to bed at 11:30, 12, 1 mid, how do you get into bed? The most restorative sleep is from 10 till 12 p.m. So how do you back your whole day up to then get you into bed? Maybe you aim for 10:30. If you're at 11:30 right now, kind of go down by 15-minute increments. And to me, it's just really prioritizing sleep. You can be doing all the supplements, spending all the money on the tests, doing all sorts of the functional approach is an investment, but it is equally as important to work on the basics, such as like the right diet for you, optimizing and prioritizing your sleep, movement, and dealing with your stressors, and kind of see if you're not able to prioritize sleep, well, what else in your routine? And a lot of the times people I'm coaching are people that are overworking, potentially workaholics, not able to set boundaries. And that then impacts their sleep. They're working until all hours of the night. And that's kind of like, how do you open up the space now for your baby? How do you mother yourself now?
It's so awesome that you brought up all those things, because that is something we have talked about endlessly on our podcast, the importance of sleep. We've talked about the blue light filters. In fact, I don't think you should even have a TV in your room as far as I'm concerned. And at a certain time, those tablets, those phones, they need to go away. And I work night shift. So when people don't sleep, I'm like, listen, I can't sleep when I want to sleep, unfortunately. Please sleep for me. So I love the fact that, you're telling us how important sleep is when it comes to fertility and infertility.
I also love that you're emphasizing basics, because I mean, it really doesn't have to be that fancy and overcomplicated. And sleep really is central to so many things. The other things we talk to people about is keeping the room cold. And I think just picking up a good old fashioned book instead of watching, television for hours upon end. And I think people are starting to get fatigued with television programming at this stage in COVID. I talked to a guy yesterday who was coming in for colonoscopy screening, but he's having sleep problems. And we actually spent the entire visit talking about sleep hygiene and things like that. And he was really excited about it. Now, that said, I think it's just important because, our biohacker population is going to want to know about supplements. So are there any supplements that people can help with their reproductive health?
Yeah, so we started couples off with basic supplements, and then when we get the testing back, so we're doing the food sensitivity, the Dutch, we're doing the GI map, and we're also doing the HTMA, so the hair tissue mineral analysis testing. And then we're developing that targeted protocol, typically an average of 3 to 4 months, and that's really targeted supplements. But the basic supplements that we recommend for both partners, so we would do a methylated folate for the female partner. Many people are taking folic acid, so you don't want to be taking that. That's the synthetic form of folate, so you want to make sure it's methylated folate. The male partner would take a multi, both would take omegas, both take magnesium, both vitamin D, and both a probiotic.
I love it. Yeah, we're on the same page 100%. Before we wrap up, I think it's important to let people know where to find you and what things are available, especially, with the new year. So where can people find you and listen to your wonderful breadth of knowledge?
Awesome. Yeah, you can find me on Get Pregnant Naturally. It's on iTunes or Spotify. I also have a 3-day fertility diet freebie, so they can go to Fertility Diet Freebie, and there's chef prepared recipes and a little meal plan to kind of get you started with the fertility diet that has anti-inflammatory foods to help. And this is for you and your partner, so you can start cooking this weekend.
Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and leave a comment below. It really does help all of us to get the word out, to improve everybody's health and wellness. It was such a pleasure to have Ms. Clarke on the show today. Always great to talk to my friend Aaron Graham in Miami. Aaron Graham, what's going on in Maximal Being these days?
Well, in Maximal Being, we did just do our holiday podcast, so please check it out. We talked about the gifts for the fitness lover or future fitness lover in your life, which one thing we did talk about was sleep tracking, which we touched base on today. So check that podcast out. Of course, you can always check us out on maximalbeing.com, as well on Instagram and Facebook, and of course on Twitter as well.
Okay, so it was a pleasure chatting with you both. We'll catch all of you Maximal Beings next time. And as always, this is Doc Mock here with Sarah Clarke and Aaron Graham, and we are here to maximize your pathway to wellness.
Next week on the Maximal Being Podcast.
Do us a favor, Maximal Beings, and leave us a comment or review. Hit the subscribe button and let your friends and family know so that we can get the word out. And until next time, this is Doc Mock, and I'm here to maximize your pathway to wellness.